nobody really knows what's healthy and what isn't. So we're gonna go over some healthy options that you can swap out your unhealthy options for, so you guys can stay on your nutrition and your looksmaxxing gains. So not all eggs are created equal. Eggs are really like the building block of life, obviously, because that little thing creates a chicken. So they're extremely nutritious. In general, we have a profit-based model of, food production. The most profitable thing is factory farming. So factory farmed eggs are gonna be like the lowest nutritional value, but they're also gonna be the cheapest. So this is like an example of factory farmed eggs. You can see it's like this blistering white bleach egg, but actually the shell doesn't really matter that much for how nutritious it is, as you'll see. That can be a good signal though, because this is clearly some sort of processed egg, right? Obviously. The next level up from factory farmed eggs is cage-free eggs. So basically these chickens have a little bit more space. That's essentially what will make the difference of these different tiers of eggs, is how much space the chicken has. So cage-free, they do get to live outside of a cage. In factory farming, they basically live their entire life in this little cage, and they lay eggs their whole life. It's honestly a very depressing thing. Cage-free is a step up. The animal has a slightly better life, slightly more space, but we're still not at the level that we really want to be at. So the next level up is free range. Free range has a bit more space per chicken than cage-free, and they actually get to go outside a little bit. It's not actually what you would think. Free range, you think they have free range, they do whatever they want. It's not really that. There's a reason why there is a difference between free range and pasture raised, so we'll get to that in a second. But free range is definitely a better option than cage-free, and you can see the eggs are gonna look a bit more nutritious. You can see these are like this nice brown shell. So a side note, oftentimes people think that white versus brown shell dictates how nutritious and how healthy that egg will be. And in general, that's actually a decent guideline. Those, very processed factory farmed eggs were just bleached white. However, that's not always the case, as we'll see, because the next tier up will actually have some white eggs. There's a lot of factors that affect what color the shell is. So the top tier of eggs is gonna be pasture raised. Pasture raised eggs, basically in order to be a pasture-raised egg, each chicken has to have a minimum amount of space, which is actually a decent amount of space for a chicken. And they get to go outside and eat bugs and supplement their diet, whatever they're fed, with actual insects. So that makes it so the yolks are a lot more nutritious. And you can see that here. You're gonna get some diversity in color of the shells. So you can see that these are white shells, but they're going to be much more nutritious than a free-range brown egg, for example. So don't necessarily pay only attention to the shell color, but look at these words and these labels, particularly pasture raised. So within pasture raised, there's actually some tiers. So this is something I haven't seen before, but this is something I would prefer over regular pasture raised eggs, which is pasture raised, all the same credentials for the chicken, but soy free. So the feed of a chicken can actually contribute to the nutritional profile of the egg. And soy is something that has estrogenic effects. So if you are a dude trying to be a Giga Chad, have a little soy sauce on your sushi, but don't have tofu be your primary protein source, because you're gonna have estrogenic side effects, almost invariably. Not necessarily, but probably. So these are actually pretty legit. I'm stoked on these. This is not a very common product. It's also a fairly new product, because regenerative agriculture is not very popular. This is definitely the top tier for eggs. It's pasture-raised eggs, and it's regenerative agriculture. Not only does that mean that the farm that produced this cares a lot about these chickens, but this is actually a net carbon negative operation. So the vegans can't sass you about how your egg consumption is actually messing up the environment, because this actually has a carbon sequestering effect.
Daddy, chill.
All right, so now we're gonna talk about sports supplements. So you can watch me lose every single potential sponsorship in 30 seconds as I rip on every major brand. First up, we got Rise. I'm honestly a big fan of these guys. From a nutritional standpoint, I do need to point out this ingredient that's going to mess with your gut health. And it's gonna mess with your gut health in a way that affects how you process sugar, which is actually not good because it can cause insulin resistance. So basically, Rise is a zero sugar energy drink, right? And honestly, the stack is pretty decent, but sucralose is going to be a big issue with sports drinks in general. So this is another common one, Soylent. It has, interesting. Soylent is super popular, and I would never drink this if you are a dude trying to reach your full Chad potential. First and foremost, this is with soy protein. So it will have estrogenic effects, very mild ones, but still estrogenic effects. Secondly, it's sweetened with sucralose, and it also has canola oil in it. So overall, this is the epitome of what you do not want to consume. It might be fast and easy and convenient. Honestly, a raw egg is a lot better. That said, watch out for salmonella.
Studying this amazing subspecies. I'll show you subspecies!
Next up, we got Bang. Massive ad campaign. You guys all know about Bang. Unfortunately, it also has sucralose in it. So whatever the stack is, you really don't want to affect your gut bacteria. Like, you can mess up your gut bacteria and you can cause depression and various other things. Like, we know this from animal studies that like there's a two-way street basically with like how gut bacteria affects your well-being, your leanness, how you process insulin, everything. I actually know people that have a lot of muscle that are lean, young dudes that drink so much sucralose in their sports drinks that they have insulin resistance when they should not have insulin resistance based on who they are. It doesn't make sense, except for the sucralose. So the main takeaway is say no to sucralose. It's like the say no to drugs, say no to sucralose. Don't mess up your gut bacteria. All right, so what should you do? You should not do Rise, Bang, or Soylent. What's a good option if you actually do want to be on the gains train and have like, you know, a little pick-me-up? Powerlift is actually a pretty good option. It's not flavored with sucralose, and it also actually has 10 grams of protein. So among all sports drinks, I would suggest going for something like Powerlift, or honestly just making your own. Like, you know, if you just put electrolytes and water, like you have like the primary components of a sports drink, drink that with a cup of coffee, you have 50% of, you know, a pre-workout. Take some beetroot extract or some Cialis. You have a better pre-workout than almost anything on the shelves. All right, so this is a bonus. Now, I'm a big fan of Core Power in general. If you're at the airport, you're traveling, whatever, it's a great way to get your protein in. That said, aside from the animal abuse allegations that they did recover from, there is one primary issue with Core Power, which is that it's sweetened with sucralose. So remember, next time you're looking for a sports drink, say no to sucralose. Protein supplements are an extremely convenient way to maintain muscle or build more muscle. Not all protein is as clean as they claim to be from the labels. So this MRE Light, it's a whole food protein. In general, the branding makes it look like it's going to be a very healthy product. It's not a bad product overall, except for the fact that it has sucralose as the sweetener. So again, say no to sucralose. Some other things to watch out for when buying your protein powders are what are the actual ingredients. So let's say that you want to have a healthy protein and you don't want sucralose. So you go for something like this, like the PB2 dried almond protein. You should know that almonds have some of the most pesticides of any agricultural product that we grow. So if it's not organic, it is going to be loaded with pesticides. So this kind of thing does not have sucralose, so it's not going to mess up your gut bacteria, but I would personally avoid this because it's not an organic form and it's made from almonds, which are loaded with pesticides if they're not organic. So now for a good option, there's quite a few good options. Earth-fed muscle is one of my favorites. I also like Mark Bell's Steak Shake for like a beef protein with a bunch of organs. But here, if you're at the grocery store, Jocko Willink has actually a very good product. Jocko is not sweetened with sucralose. It won't mess up your gut bacteria. It's actually sweetened with fermented cane sugar. That might send your head spinning, but like, dude, you're drinking this and you're working out, you're lifting. Your brain is a glucose consuming organ. It's okay to consume a little bit of sugar. So this fermented cane sugar sweetened protein is actually what I would go for on these shelves. Pre-workout is a huge part of gym culture. Everyone loves pre-workout. That said, you'll never really see me drinking pre-workout because almost all of it that's actually efficacious in terms of the dose is flavored with sucralose. So it's going to mess up your gut bacteria. I actually looked on all the shelves trying to find one without sucralose and I couldn't find a single one. Bucked Up, a lot of my friends are sponsored by Bucked Up. Great company overall, flavored with sucralose. They do clearly care about the health of their consumers because they actually color it with beet powder, so they're not using Red 40. So they're a health-minded company, but almost all pre-workouts have these chemicals in it that need to be covered up with a very strong sweetener. Invariably, they sweeten it with sucralose because sucralose is very strong and can cover up those chemical flavors. So what would I recommend if you do want to consume a pre-workout? Spoonful of raw honey, good amount of high quality salt, and some beetroot extract. That way you're going to get good pump from the beetroot extract and the salt, and then the sugar is going to give you a bunch of short-term energy from the honey, plus raw honey has testosterone boosting effects. That with a good amount of water is what I go for invariably as my pre-workout because it doesn't mess up gut bacteria, it lets you get a sick pump, and you're honestly like just absolutely gains. You don't have to take any of these weird chemicals. Instant rice can be a really good way to stay on your meal plan when life gets in the way, basically, of eating a nutritious meal. What is the best instant rice to buy? In general, a lot of people like this Uncle Ben's. It's actually pretty good in general, except it has canola oil. I would suggest avoiding these highly processed seed oils that are bleached and manufactured in these. There's some surprising correlation with the increased consumption of seed oils and like human diseases. So like I personally avoid it based on that because there's enough data there that makes me not want to ingest these myself. A healthier option is Somos. In general, the ingredients are pretty good in here. That said, it has safflower or sunflower oil. I would avoid basically anything that's not olive oil, coconut oil, or animal fat. So don't fall for the scam. This has 0 calories per serving. This is the same exact avocado oil and it has 120 calories per serving. So how is that possible? They did not actually do any process to this oil to make it have no calories. In fact, it's the exact same oil, but this is a legal thing where, as you can see, there's 536 servings per container, and each serving size is about a quarter-second spray. So that means that they can legally say that this is a 0-calorie food because it's below that threshold. That said, it's not a 0-calorie food. If you do a 10-second spray of this, it's not going to stay 0 calories. So cooking sprays are a staple in almost everyone's kitchen. It's so easy to just spray some oil on the pan, fry an egg, whatever. So PAM is actually canola oil, coconut oil, and palm oil. Now, palm oil is generally harvested in a way that's really bad for the environment, and canola oil is, in my opinion, not very good for you as a highly processed, highly bleached oil. I'm gonna give you guys a quick rundown of my favorite cooking oils. That said, I am not a doctor and I am not a nutritionist. I am someone who is absolutely obsessed with what I put in my body, and I read demented amounts of literature on it. So in general, for oils, I personally prefer either animal fats or olive oil. I really don't go for coconut oil in general. It affects your internal cholesterol much more than a normal fat would. In theory, it's heart healthy, but I don't really do coconut oil except on my skin. So olive oil is gonna be the best option. Avocado oil is also a pretty good option. It has a 500-degree smoke point, so if you're cooking at high heat, avocado oil would be the way to go versus olive oil. But if you're cooking at a low heat or it's raw, olive oil is the way to go. Animal fats are actually kind of demonized. I'm a big fan of animal fats. They're very hormonally healthy. They actually are also very good for your cognitive health. And a lot of the science behind why animal fats are bad was actually funded by Coca-Cola to misguide consumers to not target sugar as the cause of disease and to target cholesterol and fat. So be aware that in general, the cholesterol hypothesis is not really considered to be legit anymore. Don't subscribe to the idea that butter and tallow and lard are actually bad for you or bad for your heart. They're actually good for you.
I'm real sick of taking advice from people that never could stare at reflections. I can't stand having a conversation with somebody that is constantly telling me what I need to do. One thing I've taken pride in throughout like my career and just as a person is like, I'm all about self-improvement. Not because I think it's the right thing to do, that's just in me.